feel was different about preparing for a class that had a lot of active learning to it, as opposed to, say, if you were just going to get up there and just lecture on the material?
Oh, well, okay, so again, in that sense, this is terrible if this is going for the CIT. So the CIT, we read a lot of material warning you, saying this is going to require a lot of preparation. You really have to be prepared. You have to write your learning outcomes first and then build your lecture around that and so on. So I got plenty of warning about that. But the thing is, this was my first time teaching. I've never taught molecular biology before. This is a new course. There's nothing to bank on. So the reality is I basically went back to the old style where I would prepare a lecture for 2 days before the lecture, right? So I'd read the material, and then the learning outcomes were an afterthought. So I'd always put a learning outcomes section, but I'd write the lecture first, and then I'd go to the beginning and say, all right, students, here's, this is what I, want you to understand. Like I've broken it down and I've crafted what I think is important. Here are the take-home messages. But I did it ass backwards, right? I didn't do the learning objectives first and then build a lecture around it. And so an unfortunate consequence of that is that the active learning was always an afterthought. So I would literally write my clicker questions almost 2 hours before the class.
Wow.
And in some cases it worked. Like, in some cases, in the way I used the questions that I think worked well is like when I have like a sort of a mini vignette for 4 or 5 slides, I would then sort of chase it up with a slightly challenging question or see if they put slides 1 and 2 and 3 together. And oftentimes you would get 100%, they all got it right, and you're like, well, great, now I know that at least they got it. But what was interesting is sometimes they didn't get it, and then those were always great because then you can say, okay, think, pair, share, convince each other, right? And you could make it sort of a teachable moment. And so it can work to do sort of clicker questions last minute, but I still don't think they weren't higher order clicker questions, but they still served, I think, a useful purpose.
So do you think the next time through you'll sort of stick with what you've got, or do you see yourself sort of moving more towards the way you're supposed to do it? Or
no, I would do it more where I'm supposed to do it. It's just this time was just a matter of survival.
Yeah.
So.
We all know about that.
Yeah. So now I've got at least half the material. I've written lectures and so it's going to be certainly, I think, much better next time. I have more time to think about what worked and didn't work.